It's such a good morning to greet you, to speak to you. It's such a good evening to the evening dews. You show me more love than I can ever endure, ever know. The love that you give is so pure, so for sure, so pure. You know what you do, and I'ma give it to you. More love than you ever had in your life. That's right. Oh, tonight, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Hello, it's your brother Mindbender, back in that ass like a thong on a fat bitch. And in today's episode, if you've been following since the first podcast on Game Point Player at the Mindbender channel here on YouTube, it's also in the playlist, so you can check it out there if you have not heard that podcast. But this particular casting here will pick up from where the last one left off, although it is the first of this channel. So from day one, we're ready to go. Now, without further ado, let's continue on with the story. So, as I came home from doing a minor stint, home to my then underage girlfriend, being only 17 years of age, and I being almost 19 years of age. During the release process of my only cognizance, became inseminated by my young testosteronic semen. You see, back in 1996, she was the first woman to get my last name tattooed on her lower back. And I being so young, and everybody around me being so young, and being ordained that my last name is not just a moniker, but a true surname, being Mac, it really played up to all the hype. It really did. Because just a year later or so, I think, we were introduced to the incredible documentary Pimps Up and Hose Down, and the phenomenal Hughes Brothers documentary American Pimp. I'm absolutely positive and sure that those two films, even more so than the aforementioned film with Max Julian, the Mac, or Too Short, or any other pimp artist that was out at the time, none touched me more than those two films. And back then, my only introduction to any sort of pimp. So let me go into a side story here. Back in 1996, my adoptive brother, Alan Jackson, and I were at his cousin Princetta's house. And Princetta lived right down the street from my cousin Ben. She lived on Imperial and Crenshaw, right there at those apartments. I think they're called the Imperial Courts. And when we went up to her apartment, it was laid, it was plushed. But she had strange paraphernalia in her apartment. There was an all-gold statue of a pimp in her apartment. She had a picture of this pimp with all of his women and an ashtray in front of it, and she would light a cigar every morning and put it in the ashtray in front of this picture. And she had all these pictures of him and different women. And I mean, he was suited and booted and laced in place. No, I kid you not. This was a life-sized, solid 24 karat gold statue of this distinguished gentleman of leisure whom had passed away a few years earlier from stage 3 cancer. Now, he was an older gentleman, and Princetta was maybe 23, 24 years old. She loved this man so much, and he left her with a nice sum of paper that she had a replica gold statue of this man made. And she had this picture with him and like 9 women, 5 on one arm, 4 on the other arm, and she had a ashtray in front of the picture every morning. She would wake up and light this cigar and put it in the ashtray. And I thought to myself, how astonishing, how amazing that she has this much respect for this man that even after his demise, she would still honor him as if he were still alive. Wow. And I thought, I want to be like him so I can control some bitches and get my freak on with them any time I wanted to. Unfortunately, the second part of that was a false reality, and rightfully so. A side note to that is young players coming up in the game today, the last thing you want to do, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, my cold, black heart, throwing freak parties with your women and wasting your time trying to sex all of them down is the dumbest shit you'll ever do. But keep that in mind, because that will be a segment Now, as I was released from doing my stint, my son was growing in age. It's about 7 or 8 months, and through incredibly idiotic circumstances, I lost the right to keep my grandmother's home. Young, Santa Barbara was real expensive for a young man and a child and a girlfriend who would become my wife later on in the year 2000. She decided to go to my mother's house with Malachi, and I would bring her back as soon as I got us a place, is what I told her. And I did. But during that time, I stayed at my Uncle Fred's house, and I would have these dreams of a young girl that my brother dated in high school. For whatever reason or the other, I would think of this girl often, and I remember having a conversation with him when we were seniors in high school, and I said, Al, I'm gonna have her one day, because one day he showed me a picture of her and she had this striped dress on and little bangs. And I thought, when we were in high school, 11th grade or whatever, when he was fooling with her, I thought, she was nothing to look at. Boy, was I wrong. When he showed me that goddamn picture a year later, I was like, whoa. So now, at this time, I'm at my uncle's house. Obviously, I'm thinking about getting some ass or something. My baby mama and son is in Texas with my mother. And I got a little bit of free spare time. See, at this time, I had rap aspirations. I wanted to be a rap artist more than life itself. And we had a promising crew, and we were moving forward. And so, of course, I couldn't be in Texas. I had to be in LA. At this time, in order to support me in LA, I had convinced my baby mama at the time, who would become my first wife, to go work in Baby Dolls, strip club that was down the street from my mother's house in Texas. This is 1997. And remember, she already had my name tattooed on her back. It said Mac. She was diehard in love with me at the time. And I sent her to Texas to work in a strip club, send me back the money. And although guys tried to holler at her and do whatever, I don't think she did. She was too anxious to get back to me. But the honest truth is, she was making hand over fist at Baby Dolls in the 90s, and she was sending me back every penny. And then I used that money to send for her to come back. And I believe that that was my introduction into the game.